The Pentax K-3 Mark IV may be gone from store shelves, but its successor appears to be very much alive behind the scenes. Ricoh quietly discontinued the K-3 Mark III in January 2025, and its monochrome variant followed not long after, leaving a clear gap at the top of Pentax's APS-C DSLR lineup. But rather than signaling the end of the road for Pentax DSLRs, all signs point to Pentax K-3 Mark IV. Here is everything we know so far about the Pentax K-3 Mark IV.
And today's video is sponsored by no one. If you want to book this spot, just mail us.
The first serious signal came from Kimio Tanaka, a well-regarded Japanese photographer with known connections inside Ricoh. Back in January 2025, shortly after the K-3 Mark III was pulled from production, he took to Twitter to post that Pentax was preparing to announce a new, serious and interesting DSLR to replace it. He followed that up again in October 2025 with another hint, writing that it felt like it was about time for Pentax to announce something new in the SLR space. Tanaka has a solid history of being ahead of official announcements, so his comments carry real weight in the Pentax community. Then, in March 2026, a longtime member of the DP review forums known as Asahi Man made things even more direct. When asked whether a new Pentax DSLR was coming, he replied simply, "In short, yes, the new one is coming in 26, no speculation." That post was quickly picked up by Digicam Info, a highly respected Japanese camera news site, which helped validate the claim further. Shortly after, in April 2026, a new round of discussion lit up Pentax forums after a fresh rumor surfaced on YouTube suggesting the K-3 Mark IV was moving closer to reality. The momentum is clearly building. On the imaging side, the K-3 Mark IV is widely expected to get a serious sensor upgrade. The K-3 Mark III shipped with a 25.7 megapixel BSI CMOS chip sourced from Sony, which was excellent for its time, but is now a few generations old. The K-3 Mark IV is expected to bump that up to somewhere in the 32 to 40 megapixel range, using a newer Sony APS-C sensor, the same class of chip that already powers cameras like the Fujifilm X-H2. That would bring a meaningful jump in resolution, better dynamic range, and improved shadow recovery, all of which matter hugely for the landscape and outdoor photographers who form a big chunk of Pentax's audience. The no low-pass filter design that Pentax has used for years is expected to stick around, keeping images as sharp and detailed as possible straight out of the camera. Pentax's distinctive color science, the way it handles greens in foliage, blues in skies, and skin tones, is also not going anywhere. That signature look is a big reason many photographers choose Pentax in the first place, and it would be surprising to see Ricoh tamper with it. One of the most exciting potential upgrades is in pixel shift resolution, Pentax's proprietary technology that shifts the sensor in tiny increments across multiple shots and combines them into a single ultra-high resolution image. The K-3 Mark III could produce roughly 96 megapixel pixel shift files. The K-3 Mark IV could push that to 128 megapixels or beyond, which would be a genuinely impressive number for an APS-C camera, rivaling even some medium format outputs on a tripod. Powering all of this is expected to be a new Prime 6 imaging engine. The K-3 III ran on the Prime 5 processor, and a generational step up to Prime 6 makes sense both for handling the higher resolution sensor output and for enabling more advanced features across the board. A faster processor means better noise reduction, quicker buffer clearing during burst shooting, and more headroom for computational features like improved tracking and real-time subject detection. It also opens the door for better video processing, which the K-3 III was frankly never great at. This is one of the areas where the K-3 Mark IV has the most room to grow. The K-3 III used Pentax's SafeOx 13 autofocus module with 101 phase detection points, which was solid but showed its age in a few key ways. Most notably, the points were clustered heavily toward the center of the frame, making off-center compositions harder to pull off cleanly. edge coverage was poor, and subject tracking struggled when backgrounds got complex. The K-3 Mark IV is expected to move to an upgraded SafeOx 14 system with wider point coverage across the frame. More importantly, there is strong community expectation that Pentax will finally add proper subject recognition AF, meaning eye detection and face detection that actually works reliably in phase detection mode. This has become standard across almost every competing camera by 2026, and Pentax cannot afford to skip it again. Even a basic but dependable eye AF implementation would be a significant step forward for the system. Pentax pioneered in-body image stabilization in DSLRs, and the K-3 Mark IV is expected to take that legacy forward with a meaningfully improved shake reduction system. The K-3 offered around 5.5 stops of compensation, which was respectable at launch, but has since been overtaken by competitors reaching 7 to 8 stops. The K-3 Mark IV is anticipated to close that gap, potentially landing somewhere in the 7-stop range. For a camera brand that heavily targets landscape photographers, astrophotographers, and outdoor shooters, strong IBIS matters a lot, especially when paired with pixel shift resolution, where any camera movement between shots degrades the final image. Speaking of astrophotography, AstroTracer is fully expected to return. This beloved Pentax feature uses the IBIS system alongside GPS to compensate for the rotation of the Earth while shooting the night sky, allowing for longer exposures of stars without trailing. It is one of the most unique and genuinely useful tools in any camera system right now, and it is hard to imagine Pentax leaving it out of their next flagship APS-C body. Video has never been Pentax's strong suit, but the K-3 Mark IV appears set to make real progress here. The K-3 topped out at 4K at 30 frames per second with a 1.2x crop, which was already behind the curve when it launched and looks even more dated now. The K-3 Mark IV is widely expected to offer 4K at 60 frames per second at minimum, with some speculation around 6K capability if the new processor can handle it. Pentax does not need to compete with Sony or Canon on video. Their audience is primarily still shooters, but hitting 4K 60p without a heavy crop would be a meaningful and necessary improvement. The rugged, weather-sealed DSLR body that Pentax is known for is absolutely sticking around.